You've been told your whole life that keeping pets is one of the things that makes humans special. We rescue animals, feed them, name them, let them sleep in our beds, buy them toys, celebrate their birthdays, and talk to them like family. It feels civilized. It feels uniquely human. That idea falls apart the moment you look closely at the rest of the animal kingdom. Humans did not invent pet keeping. We perfected it. Or, more precisely, we pushed an older animal tendency farther than any other species ever has. The roots were already there. Caregiving, attachment, fascination, repeated contact, and the strange habit social animals have of pulling other creatures into their daily lives. Once you see that, the whole subject changes, because a pet is not just an animal in your house. A pet is an animal brought inside a circle of care. It gets protected, monitored, groomed, fed, and worked into somebody else's routine. It becomes dependent, familiar, and hard to give up. Humans do this constantly, but so do other animals. And the clearest place to start is with a scene that looks bizarre until you realize it is deeply familiar. Across South Asia, especially around temples, towns, and city edges, macaques have repeatedly been documented taking puppies and kittens. They do not kill them, they do not eat them, they carry them against the chest, groom them, guard them, and keep them close for long stretches of time. In some cases, monkeys hauled stolen puppies across rooftops for days, cradling them the way they would carry an infant. That is not predation, that is caretaking. And the sequence is easy to recognize. First, the animal gets noticed. Then it becomes interesting. Then it becomes familiar. Then it becomes difficult to lose. That progression sits at the center of pet keeping. Once another creature crosses that threshold, it stops being background life and starts becoming somebody. A macaque grooming a puppy is doing something much more important than simply tolerating a strange animal. Grooming in primates is social glue. It calms fear, builds trust, and marks an individual as part of the group. When a monkey grooms a puppy, it is pulling that puppy into its social world. Macaques have shared food with adopted puppies. They have shown distress when separated from them. They have defended them from dogs. The details vary, but the structure is unmistakable. A social brain locks onto another species and reorganizes behavior around keeping it close. That alone is enough to wreck the old story that humans stand alone here. But monkeys are only the beginning, because there is one group of animals that does not merely care for another species. It manages them. Ants are the cleanest non-human example of pet keeping on Earth. Aphids are tiny insects that feed on plant sap. As they eat, they excrete a sugar-rich liquid called honeydew. Ants love it. Entire ant species have built their lives around it. They find aphid colonies, defend them from predators, move them to better feeding sites, and stroke them with their antennae to trigger the release of honeydew. That is already impressive. But ants go much further than simple harvesting. When ladybugs or lacewing larvae attack, ants rush in and fight them off. When a plant starts failing, ants physically transport the aphids to a fresher stem. Some species carry aphid eggs into the nest for winter, protect them underground, then bring the newly hatched aphids back out in spring and place them on fresh plants. Humans do this with domesticated animals. Ants were doing it tens of millions of years earlier. This is not a vague association. It is sustained animal management. The ants protect the aphids, relocate them, regulate access to them, and keep them alive through seasonal collapse. Some aphid species have been shaped by that relationship so thoroughly that they function inside the ant system almost like living equipment. Their bodies fit it, their behavior fits it, their survival depends on it. If a human fenced an animal, defended it, transported it, stimulated it to release food, then carried its eggs indoors for winter storage, nobody would hesitate over the label. We would call that husbandry. And if the same animal also lived under constant supervision inside a protected social system, we would be staring right at the border where livestock and pets blur together. That blur matters, because people often try to save human uniqueness by drawing a neat boundary. This one is a pet. That one is livestock. This one is companionship. That one is utility. Nature does not care about that line. A creature can be useful and still be kept close. It can produce value and still trigger attachment. Human relationships with animals have always mixed practical use with affection anyway. Dogs guard territory. Cats kill pests. Horses haul weight. Falcons hunt. Utility never disqualified intimacy. Very often, utility invited it. Ants make that impossible to ignore. You do not need language, suburbia, or a leather collar to keep another species under protection and inside your daily system. You need repeated contact, a reason to keep the animal near, and behavior organized around its survival. That is enough. And before we even get back to humans, there is one more example that resets the whole conversation. In the open ocean, some dolphins play with pufferfish. At first glance, it looks like hunting. Then it gets weird. Dolphins have been observed gently mouthing puffers, passing them between one another, and handling them with extreme care, not tearing them apart, not eating them, holding them, releasing them, then returning to them again. A pufferfish is dangerous when stressed. It inflates, it releases toxins. The dolphins are not behaving like clumsy predators. They are interacting with it almost delicately, as if the point is not food at all, but the experience of the animal itself. That matters because it shows the same basic pattern from another angle: attention, restraint, repeated handling, interest that does not end in consumption. Even in the ocean, social animals do not divide the world neatly into things to ignore and things to eat. Sometimes another creature becomes an object of prolonged fascination. Sometimes it gets handled carefully, revisited, and folded into a shared social moment. That is the wider backdrop for pet keeping. Once you accept that, pet keeping stops looking like a cultural miracle and starts looking like a natural behavior built from older parts of animal life. And once that idea lands, the real question is no longer whether humans are alone. The real question is why humans became so extreme. Why did the ape that once lived in small bands end up breeding pugs, dressing chihuahuas in sweaters, building climate-controlled reptile rooms, and spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on companion animals? Why did we take a basic animal tendency and turn it into a massive system? The answer begins with one fact: humans never just keep animals. We redesign them. That is the great human escalation. A macaque can take a puppy, an ant can farm an aphid, a dolphin can become fixated on a pufferfish. But humans selectively breed creatures to fit our emotions with astonishing precision. We take wolves and turn them into toy poodles, mastiffs, dachshunds, and pugs. We take wild cats and produce Persians with flattened faces and unusually docile temperaments. We shape parrots, rabbits, rats, fish, snakes, and lizards into categories of color, pattern, size, and behavior that make them easier to keep close and easier to care about. We do not simply adopt animals into our world. We alter them for life inside it. That is why so many pets look the way they do. Large eyes, rounded heads, soft fur, short snouts, reduced aggression, juvenile features that keep the body looking young. Humans selected for cuteness with the same intensity we use to select for milk yield or grain size. The result is obvious once you notice it. We evolved to respond to vulnerable, baby-like traits, and then we built whole breeds that trigger those responses on command. A pug is not just a dog. It is a caregiving button. That is one of the few modern facts about pets that should actually unsettle you. We did not just tame animals. We built animals that are unusually good at reaching into ancient parts of the human brain. The deeper you look, the stranger modern pet keeping becomes. People buy orthopedic beds for aging dogs, heated rocks for geckos, filtered fountains for cats, anxiety wraps for thunderphobic pets, GPS trackers, pet cameras, DNA tests, insurance plans, birthday cakes, memorial jewelry, and strollers for animals with perfectly functional legs. That sounds ridiculous right up until you understand what is happening. The old circle of care never disappeared. It just kept expanding. For most animals, pulling another creature close means guarding it, feeding it, grooming it, maybe carrying it for a while. Humans turned that same pattern into architecture, commerce, medicine, law, and identity. We build homes around pets. We structure routines around them. We alter travel plans, sleep schedules, budgets, furniture, and relationships around them. People move to apartments that allow dogs. They reject rental listings because a cat would hate the layout. They spend more on veterinary surgery than they would ever spend on themselves. That is not a weird side effect of civilization. It is old attachment amplified by safety, wealth, and time. And this is where the story becomes revealing rather than merely cute. Pet keeping says something powerful about what social brains do when they have room to expand. Once food is stable enough, danger is low enough, and time is abundant enough, the urge to care spills outward. Humans did not stop with their own offspring, their own kin, or even their own species. We opened the household to other animals and started arranging daily life around them. Some of those animals work for us. Some entertain us. Some comfort us. Some simply remain there long enough to become indispensable. That is why losing a pet feels so severe. The relationship looks small from the outside, but it occupies very old psychological ground. The animal is woven into habit, place, and expectation. It waits in the same room, follows the same path, makes the same sounds, appears at the same hour, and slowly becomes part of the structure of the day. Remove it, and the day itself feels damaged. That is exactly what the macaque examples reveal in compressed form. An animal is noticed, then interesting, then familiar, then difficult to lose. Humans stretch that arc across years, sometimes decades, and surround it with beds, bowls, names, rituals, photos, and grief. This also explains something else. Humans are drawn not only to useful or beautiful animals, but to animals that demand care. We like creatures that stay near us, depend on us, react to us, and fit neatly into our emotional routines. We are especially vulnerable to small scenes of dependence. The dog waiting by the door, the cat sleeping on the chair you always use, the rabbit thumping for food, the parrot calling your name from another room. Dependence has force, and humans built a world where that force can become an industry. Today, the global pet economy is enormous because it sits on top of instincts so old they predate humanity itself. Food, toys, grooming, medicine, breeding, accessories, boarding, training, furniture, insurance, memorial services, pet influencers, luxury products, all of it rests on one ancient act, choosing another living thing and refusing to let it drift away. Other animals do pieces of this. Humans industrialized it. That is what really separates us. Not category, but scale. Not the existence of the bond, but the reach of it. No macaque has an aquarium wall. No ant colony has a veterinarian. No dolphin has a custom stroller for a bulldog with seasonal allergies. Humans took a deep animal tendency and built an entire world on top of it. And yet the old structure is still visible underneath all the absurdity. A dog asleep on a couch is still inside a circle of care. A cat in a windowsill is still an animal folded into someone else's routine. A parrot riding on a shoulder is still another species pulled into a social world and held there. That continuity is the point. Pet keeping did not appear out of nowhere in human homes. It did not arrive fully formed with civilization. It grows from behavioral systems that are older than our species and broader than our species. Caregiving crosses boundaries. Attachment crosses boundaries. Fascination crosses boundaries. Social brains seize on other creatures and pull them close. Humans did not invent that pattern. We perfected it. So the next time you see a dog under a blanket, a cat with a name tag, a rabbit chewing furniture in a climate-controlled apartment, or a lizard basking beneath a carefully calibrated heat lamp, remember what you are actually looking at. You are looking at one of the oldest impulses in the animal kingdom, scaled up by the strangest ape that ever lived. We are just the ape that turned the whole house into a nest.